Are you doing absolutely too much? If you answer yes to that question, you are like the majority of people that I deal with, and you're like me. We have so committed ourselves personally, professionally, that we're driving ourselves to the point of exhaustion. The thing is though, when I talk to people, they say, yes, I know it, I do it, but how do I change it? Today, I'd like to help you with a 6-step process called the Wholehearted Self-Coaching Model. What it will do is help you to deal with that conflict and a variety of others. In fact, when you get good at it, you'll find that sometimes you can deal with an issue in 60 seconds and move on to the next thing. All right, so let's do this. In this case, we've already named the conflict, which is we are overcommitted. But what I often find is that surface conflict has some other conflict that lies beneath the surface. So using myself as an example, why am I so overcommitted? Perhaps because there was some point in my life where I felt I was responsible for everything and everybody in my sphere. Part of that was connected to me being a perfectionist. And that perfectionism came out of me always feeling like I had to prove myself that I was worthy. So at the root of me being so busy, when you go deeper and deeper, you find it's connected to an unworthiness that I carried for the bulk of my life. That example shows you that there can often be conflict beneath the surface, or if you will, conflict beneath the conflict. That's why I think it's really important to get intellectually curious about yourself. Why do I do that? Where does that come from? Because doing so allows you to understand yourself so much better. And that's part of changing your behavior. That process of analyzing ourselves continues with step 2, where we look at our past and figure out how our beliefs, our experiences, even our personality shapes the way that we see this conflict. So the way that my past impacts me being overcommitted is I was raised in a generation where, you had to get up at 9 o'clock because you had to be productive and do something. There was no such thing as laying in the bed. So there was this mentality that your productivity is connected to your value. So I should be always on the go, always doing. It was this idea that our productivity was our value, and so we should be committed. We should be doing things. We always should be busy. So when you think about the way that I was raised and you add it to the fact that I grew up with low self-esteem, you can almost connect why me constantly doing and trying to prove and strive and achieve something would be a reality for me today. Yet there's also this other part that came from my past, and that was I grew up with these stereotypes of Black people being lazy. So there was always this underlying theme that I'm going to show you that we are more productive, that we are smarter, that we are better, that we are able to do so much more than you think we can. And that's driven this desire to produce, and produce some more. So in the same way that my past influences what becomes a conflict for me today, so does my present, and that's step 3. So what's going on today that makes me overcommitted? It's so interesting because when I think about it, I've brought my past into my present. What I believed about productivity has come into today. How? Because I'm helping to run a business. I'm running a nonprofit. I'm part of a sorority that's really involved. And I'm a mother, a daughter, a wife. I have so many titles. How do you manage all of those titles? And it goes deeper than that, because every time I think about, well, what thing do I stop doing? Or how do I pull myself back? Then it's that same mentality that I still believe today, but I am the responsible person. I'm the person who should be doing it. I'm the one who can't give up. I have to save the world. Those beliefs from my past are still existing in my present, and they are creating a conflict that is overwhelming and killing me. Now you might see that as a very dramatic statement, but I always challenge people to really look at their thoughts, their feelings, and their behaviors and what it's leading them to. And that really is step 4 of the process, where we look at our reactions. Because of me being so overloaded, what do I do as a reaction? Well, number 1, I'm always rushing through life, busy, not taking the time to do the things that are necessary. Do I have time to call the doctor to make sure I'm proactive with my health? Absolutely not. Do I have time to plan out a healthy meal and sit down and relax while I eat that meal? No, I've got to be on the go because I've got 20 more things to do. These are the things that we do automatically without much thought. And unfortunately, these are the things that can bring us down because we're not being intentional. So here's the thing. When I'm reacting with my thoughts, feelings, and actions because I'm overwhelmed about how much I'm committed to, what tends to happen for me? For me, it's often that I have these thoughts that only I can do it. Oh, nobody wants to help me. Oh, woe is me. Look at how hard my life is. Or I may even have these feelings of sadness, like what am I going to do to get myself out of this? Almost a hopelessness that there is no way out of it. It's never going to change. And then my behaviors tend to be that I isolate from myself from other people. I can be grumpy and grouchy. All of these things that I don't want to be because I'm allowing myself to react to a conflict that I need to be more intentional about. And that intentionality actually comes with the fifth step in this process. It's the place where I stop myself from reacting and I remind myself about the big picture. The fifth step says, what is the result that I want? Who do I want to become? What do I want my life to be? And when I look at all this that I'm so overcommitted, that's not what I want. What I want is to live a life of purpose and meaning, one where I impact the lives of others. I can't do that being grumpy and grouchy and being caught up in my reaction. I have to be intentional about saying this is what I want, and then how can I go to the sixth step, the last step, which says, how can I get it? The sixth step is what we call a response. Whereas a reaction is immediate and habitual and often negative, the response is intentional, it is planned, and it aligns with who we are becoming. Here's the thing about that sixth step though. I always tell people the sixth step is about you saying what you have control over. It's not me saying, I want other people to do this. I have no control over other people. I don't have a control over other people giving me more things to do on my to-do list. So I can't have a response that says, I want this person to do that, because ultimately I can't control their behavior. But what I can control is my thoughts, behaviors, and feelings. Yep, I said it. We can choose how we think, feel, and act, but we have to plan that out. So if I look at this idea that I'm overcommitted, but what I want is to make a bigger impact in my world, then what will I choose in order to make that impact? Well, one thing I'll choose is to slow myself down. When I slow myself down, it means that when I wake up in the morning, instead of rushing into my day, I'm going to take 30 minutes to walk and be with nature or to pray and meditate. It means that I am going to say no sometimes when people ask me to do things, because that is not my worth, saying yes to everybody, and I can't be effective for everybody if I say yes to everything. It also means that I'm going to carve out time so that I make my physical and mental health a priority. The response step is about us taking our power back. This is not about us controlling other people, but is instead about us prioritizing ourselves. The last part I would say about the response step is that this is the step that takes a lot of practice, yet it can be extremely profitable for you when you learn to master your response and therefore your life. What I'd like to do now is just go quickly through the 6 steps. So the first step is to identify the conflict. Here we decided that it was that we're overcommitted and doing way too much. We then determine what shapes that conflict. Step 2 says we look at our past and what mentalities have added to this being a conflict for us. The third step is to look at our present and what's going on right now that adds stress or strain to that conflict. The fourth step is to then examine how we react as a result of that conflict. What do we do that is so automatic and so unplanned and oftentimes so detrimental? The fifth step is to stop ourselves, stand back, and look at the result that we want. Who are we becoming? What is the impact that we want to leave in this world? And the sixth and final step is for us to choose a response that is intentional and powerful. When we work through those 6 steps in our self-coaching model, we can help ourselves through almost any situation that we face. It is a position and a tool of power and promise, and I'd love to hear how you use it.